Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey there, Better Call Saul fans! Welcome back to the Better Call Saul After Show at AFTERBUZZ TV! I'm your host, Zach Wilson. Thank you so much for joining us. Very excited to talk to you about tonight's episode 205, Rebecca. And I've got some fantastic panelists here today. Kevin Ellis.
How's it going, guys? You can find me on Twitter at @TheKevinEllis or on Instagram at KevinEllis25. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to be here as well, and if you can spell my name right, it is Lacretialyon, and remember, there's only one Lacretia Lyon, so find me anywhere.
Alright, well, as I said, I'm Zach Wilson. You can tweet me throughout the week, throughout the show, at that Zach Wilson. I want to hear all of your thoughts and opinions. Thank you to those of us talking to us in the chat. Let's keep it on point, guys.
Everybody wants to talk about Daredevil.
No, we're not talking about that. There's later. We're talking about Better Call Saul, because that's the better option.
Yeah, I mean, and it was a good episode, yeah.
What are your guys' first reactions to this episode?
I really like that we learn more about Chuck and Kim, and I've always felt for Kim, but this gave me a little bit of different perspective on Chuck, which I liked. I was thinking he was a real douchebag to be, forever, and then now we see why he is the way he is.
I've always kind of seen Chuck as somebody who we can look forward to hopefully redeeming himself over time. Mm-hmm. And I think that tide is now turning, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing, hopefully Jimmy and he can actually come to terms with one another and reconcile.
Yeah. By the way, I should mention before we go any further, Stephen Lemieux unfortunately couldn't join us in studio tonight. He's a little under the weather, so send him your love at Stephen Lemieux. Get well soon, Stephen. I think he might pop up in the chat, but we'll see. I know that he really enjoyed tonight's episode. I think shared the feeling by the end of it of what
Hector.
We'll get to that.
So many cool things at the end of the episode.
Name drop. But yeah, no, it was a very exciting episode for a lot of reasons. That was an obvious, just exciting fan moment, but there was so much juicy, just character drama in this, especially around Kim. This was really her episode to shine. Not that Ray Seahorn has failed to shine before in this show, but this episode took it to the next level.
Yeah, to me, as an actor, for her, my favorite scene was the Post-its. I just can't imagine, playing that out. Because she's essentially alone in this scene and displaying all these emotions, Post-it after Post-it after Post-it, when no one is talking to her. I really like that, because we show that Kim is a very independent, very work-focused. This is her life, and this is what she wants. Even though she cares about Jimmy, it's more about being a lawyer than it is, to be with him. And I think that really shows in her character in this episode.
You're seeing somebody who's really taking the bull by the horns, who's standing up for themselves, not letting anybody else push her around. You see her kind of, she's working late. She's working long hours. She's not letting Jimmy help her, even when he proposes the idea of a lawsuit to save her from the situation, which was just kind of out of left field. When is she going to actually get that type of those type of cojones to actually sue Hamlin and McGill? It's just not going to happen. So it was exciting to see her.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is it's not about having the cojones to sue somebody. It's about being smart. Because, and look, I could see the that's I can hear the Hollywood writer in that that's very similar to in the entertainment industry, in a small knit community of a profession. If you sue your employer especially today, because you're just so much more searchable than back then.
No.
But if you sue your employer, a well-known employer, so the case might actually get like seen, why would anybody want to hire you? Because they're going to be worried about that they might have to tiptoe around you lest you sue them for something that like they didn't mean to do. Like, oh, we can't punish her because she's going to sue us.
Totally.
But what I really loved about, like, my favorite part of her scene was what you were just saying, like, about, like, Jimmy coming in and trying to help her. And her response is just like, you don't save me. I save me.
I love that, too. Because, yeah, it's like she's not a damsel in distress. She's an independent woman who worked her butt off to get where she is. Without Jimmy, without anybody else. And she wants credit for that. And that's why, you know, she flat out asked Chuck, does she have a future? Because she's looking elsewhere, thinking she doesn't. Because she's trying to take care of herself.
Yeah, it was the most firm declaration by her to Jimmy, saying, you know what, I'm done. I can do this on my own. I don't need your help. Everything that you've done so far hasn't helped, and so it's now time for me to take it to my own. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool stuff. Like, I really loved seeing her. Like, she's going through this doc review, which just like she's just basically just going through lining all of the documents from Sandpiper for like, well, this was an overcharge, this was an overcharge, this was. You see how many people are in that room.
Oh, yeah.
Those are all like kids fresh out of college.
Yeah, like first year interns even, you know.
Yeah.
And
because it's mindless work.
Not
It's the
even
kind
at
of
the
thing like,
associate level.
let's be honest, even we could probably handle it. Like,
yeah,
and
even
I have
us.
no legal training. I just talk about TV all day.
It's like I have a master's degree, but it's not even anything real.
Yeah.
It's like I could do it.
Yeah, Jonathan Ma, doc review is why lawyers commit suicide.
That should add to the lawyer jokes I'm sure we'll get later.
Yeah, oh my god, those are great. And we'll get to those when we talk about Chuck in a little bit. But yeah, it's very simple stuff, but it's the kind of thing that has to get done, and is absolutely the place where you would send somebody to get punished. But she's what I admire about her character is that she's not the type, because if that happened to me, if what happened to Kim happened to me in this episode, I'm not a very confrontational person. I would flip out on Hamlet. She'd be like, what the F are you doing to, like, what? But she doesn't argue, she doesn't criticize, she just takes what's given to her and is like, I'm only going to succeed by doing better than all of these people.
She has a great deal of patience. We clearly saw that in this episode, and we see it through Jimmy all the time. Everything that she puts up with Jimmy, and it finally is rewarded when she finally gets a call back from Paige.
Yeah,
and we finally get to see some bright light where there's just been darkness, and we've seen it literally darkness. She's in this room with a bunch of, as you said, interns.
Yeah,
finally something happens.
She's so far above this work that they even think that she's their supervisor.
Oh yeah.
She has to spell it out for them, like,
Literally.
you don't have to wait for me.
and that's what I like about her character, and I think that Chuck comparing them was really great, because yeah, she's doing the right thing no matter what. Like, she's doing the work, she's telling him, you know, I'm not your boss, call me Kim, all this, you know, reassuring them she's on their level right now because she's in trouble. And yeah, like you said, if it were you would have been confrontational. Me, I would have screwed up all the work. It's like, yeah, you throw me down here, I'll throw you under the bus, screw up all this work. But not Kim. She does the right thing, and she just sticks it out. And even when Hamlin doesn't let her even get on what she brought him.
She plays by the rules.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like, I want to talk about just about the sequence of her, like, searching for this, just because I felt like this was some really good just TV. The like watching her with the Post-its in the stairwell, like calling people, basically doing it all in secret. Let me ask you, do you guys think that there was anything, because I was wondering this, like, was there anything wrong with her calling all of these different people? Like, basically, not, I wouldn't, maybe not behind, maybe it's not behind Hamlin's back.
Yeah.
Well, not even about, it's not, I don't think it's about on the clock or off the clock, because, like, look, any job, if you can put in extra, if you're going to put in the extra mile, if you're gonna go the extra mile, put in the extra effort off the clock, great. Anyone would. I don't think any boss would say anything against that. But she's calling like for clients on behalf of Hamlin and McGill as somebody doing doc review. Do you think that she was putting herself at risk doing that?
I do feel like initially it did seem Jimmy-esque in the way that she seemed like she was going around them, but then when you realize what she's doing is trying to bring, more cases to them to try and help her case, so to speak, was like, okay, she knows Howard and she knows Chuck, and they're gonna eat this up. So, especially Howard with his ego, of course, this big case coming to them wanting their help, she knew that, because I think that there's more to her and Howard that we haven't really seen yet. But yeah, like even Chuck thought it was crappy that Howard didn't even consider all the work she did on that.
Yeah, I mean that effing scene. Like I wanted to swear really bad. But we try not to swear here. Try to swear at AFTERBUZZ. But I wanted to swear on Kim's behalf when like she gets this client, she brings him in. It's a huge bank. Like banks are just literally made of money. Literally they are made of money. And that Hamlin. Here's the thing. Okay, we spent most of season 1 against Hamlin. We were like, Hamlin's a dick. I hate him. He's the antithesis to Jimmy. And then at the end of the season, he was like, it turned out that he had been fighting for Jimmy, that he liked him, that it was Chuck that was like trying to stop him. And now it's all reversed again.
I know. It's like, tell me what you want, show. Is Howard bad? Is Chuck bad? Who is the bad guy? Damn you, Vince Gilligan.
And that's the thing. It's like, it's all about perspective. Like Chuck, I think, sees his career path in Kim. And that's what he didn't see in Jimmy. He didn't see somebody like scratching from whatever he could to like, he saw somebody who put in the effort over years and was willing to scrape and claw at that after working so hard, even when things didn't go her way. Jimmy is the kind of guy who, when things don't go his way, he makes a different way. And that's what Chuck hates. He hates it. But to see Hamlin, who we thought was like on our side, because he, I guess, respects the like
Jimmy's way
of just like whatever it takes, like I do it my way, like I make my own path. But he just why do you guys think that Hamlin has it so out for Kim when ostensibly I would say like I still like don't see how this is so her fault. Like all from his perspective, she saw it, didn't know that she was going to she didn't know that he was going to broadcast, although maybe he thinks that she did.
Does Hamlin still know? Because I don't think that he does know.
He doesn't.
Chuck, I don't think would ever tell him.
Yeah, but he does. Yeah, okay, that's fair. But it still seems extreme because it wasn't her actions.
No, I've been kind of grappling with this concept myself. I'm trying to figure out why he's so pissed off. I mean, I can only point to the fact that he stuck his neck out for Jimmy so much to the point where now it's coming back to bite her in the neck so hard, but it still doesn't justify it. I don't know.
Yeah, and I kind of suspected this in the first season, but then it had kind of trailed off, that maybe Howard had been interested in Kim when we thought that Howard was the one keeping Jimmy from going up, and then it went away. But now his behavior towards Kim just makes me think that that might really be there, and that he really doesn't dislike Jimmy and wasn't really like jealous until she stuck her neck out for him like that, and that's something that was against her character, where she's always doing the right thing and stuff like that, and then this comes back, makes Howard look bad, makes her look bad, so he's punishing her for making the wrong decision because, well, she stuck her neck out for this guy. He's not just some dude she's banging. He actually sees that she might actually care for him, and now he's pissed.
And maybe he's got a bigger ego than we really think that he does, and maybe that moment where he actually looked like a fool kind of turns out to be a little bit more than we previously thought.
That's interesting you guys say that you think Hamlin is interested in Kim, because I've heard from other people, specifically Steven, before we came in here, was saying he was wondering if Chuck has a thing for Kim.
Oh.
I actually didn't see that with Chuck. I thought that their scene was very just more like, brother and sisterly, nothing, or friendly. I didn't really see any, because, I mean, she didn't even remind him of Rebecca, and to me, like, that's what I was thinking. If she was more like his, wife, I could have seen that, but they were more comparing each other. And, I mean, Chuck seems a little narcissistic, but not that bad.
I didn't necessarily see that either one of these guys had any interest in Kim. Like, I could see that in terms of, like, as a TV fan, like, love triangles or love rhombuses, if you will. They do cause good tension, but I never thought that anyone besides Jimmy was interested in Kim. If there is a love triangle in this, it's between Jimmy, Kim, and the law. But that's honestly, for her, I think that's the big thing, is that, like, Jimmy, she doesn't feel like she can be with Jimmy and with the law, which is her real love at this point in her life. Jimmy is actively preventing her from doing that. So how can, like, it becomes, she does say in this episode, I'm with somebody. Like, granted, it's to a creeper, but, like, so, like, you could take that as you will. But I think that it is to say that she still considers herself to be with Jimmy. Would you guys agree?
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. She hasn't left him. I mean, she's made that clear in last episode, in episode 4. We'll see when the end of the season comes around, whether or not they're actually still together. We've been predicting when they're going to break up or what's going to happen to Kim, but I still see them actually together, hopefully by the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be, will they or won't they kind of drag out for the 5 seasons.
Will they, won't they? What do you think happened a few weeks ago?
It's like they've obviously been together, but, Ross and Rachel and all the couples, they break up, they get back together, but yeah, I mean, we all know something happens eventually, but I don't see them getting rid of Kim. For how long? Because we at least got one more season announced today, but... Yeah,
we're going to talk about that in news and gossip. You're spoiling
I just ruined everything.
I'm going to mute you if you don't behave. Not like I have that power from here. But like, I mean, I think Kim and Chuck's relationship is very interesting because he does sort of have that brotherly vibe to her. And it's especially interesting in that big scene at the end of the episode. Where we got all of this backstory on Jimmy and Chuck, where Jimmy was stealing from their dad, supposedly, allegedly stealing from his dad.
Because I'm sure Jimmy has a different perspective on what he did there.
He was just taking bonuses. Yeah. He worked harder those days.
Exactly.
Just a little money out of the cash register. Well, wouldn't hurt anybody in Jimmy's mind. But it's so sad because clearly Chuck was very close to his own father. I mean, he was even named after his own dad. And you could tell that he only had the best things to say about him, that he was just deep down a good person. And I think it killed Chuck in many ways. It took a lot out of him to see his own father pass away in the way that it did. And I'm sure that there's a lot of blame on Jimmy, and that really shows now in this series how much his passing could have affected their relationship.
Yeah. And I thought the thing he cried the hardest was a good note. Because, and I think Chuck is even aware of it, that Jimmy never intends to hurt anybody. And this, to me, is exactly what's happening in the scene with, or the whole sequence with the commercial. He never really thought of it as going behind their backs. He was just like, this is better. Like, why should I waste their time with all these meetings, with like debates over background noise or anything like that? Like, I'll just do it. I'll do it cheap. I'll test it. We won't go wide with it, but then I'll just do it. It'll be great. They'll love it. And then of course it backfires, but I don't think he ever really, even if he knew this will go poorly, he never really thought he was doing anything wrong.
Well, what's interesting about that is that Jimmy, he rarely shows any sign of guilt, especially towards any of his shady actions. He never really takes full ownership. So what would be interesting to kind of find out if we go back into the past is whether or not there was a conversation between Chuck and Jimmy prior to the funeral, or like at the funeral, on whether there was blame put on Jimmy, because there would be no other reason other than just losing your father to why he would cry as hard as he did in the way that Chuck alluded to, without him feeling some sort of guilt, which would be new. Like, we haven't seen that before.
Well, and Jimmy has a different code than most people. I mean, comparatively to like people like Dexter, Walter White, whatever. They feel like they're doing the right thing, even though most people are like, that's clearly wrong. And so I do think that Jimmy does feel guilt, like, as far as, like, the thing with his father is concerned, but that's probably what shut him down to feeling guilt on these minor things. And, so that may have been that moment where now he's like, I'm not going to feel guilty ever again. You see that a lot with the character development. So, yeah, that was so devastating to feel this guilt for his father dying after what he had done to the business that obviously had led to this early death. Now Jimmy is just, like, trying to block all that out and doesn't seem to care when he, knocks over a douchebag at the bar, which, I mean, I get not caring about that one, but, some of these other, slipping Jimmys might have been innocent people.
Yeah, well, I mean, he does, I think what we've seen of his targets, they tend to be D-bags.
Yeah.
They tend to be, like, rich schmucks, yeah. But that doesn't mean he's right for taking advantage of them, but he sees it as like
Robin Hood.
Yeah, he's
yeah.
Exactly. He sees himself as Robin Hood in these scenarios. Not a thief, Robin Hood.
Yeah.
He's stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. The poor being himself.
Yes. Yeah, and you see that he's not always so selfish, because I do think initially when he started the Sandpiper thing, it was actually to help these people out, and it just escalated into this big case. But yeah, I mean, you saw, he wouldn't even take money from the old lady, when he realized she didn't have any, and then that's what prompted this whole investigation. He, like Chuck said, Jimmy's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he's not. Yeah. So, like, last thought. What were your guys' last thoughts on the whole Chuck Kim scenario? Like, at the end of it, Chuck is saying, "You're being wasted down in doc review." So, you think it's going to turn around? Like, he's going to actively try to turn it around for her, right?
Yeah, he seemed genuine in that. I never felt like Chuck was just trying to get information out of Kim this whole episode. That's what I liked about him. I felt like this whole exchange was genuine. And I think because Chuck does have power over Howard. Like, it's pretty clear that Chuck is the one in charge, even with his mental instability.
Yeah, and Chuck, you could tell, even when he asked her to go get coffee, he suddenly kind of backed up a little bit, and he's like, well, it's for the electricity thing.
Yeah.
He felt a little bit of guilt for that, and he's clearly, he has a big heart. I'm sure that we're going to, we'll get into Rebecca in a little bit, but clearly he has had a heart, and he does show it on occasion. And this was one of those instances, because he knows that Kim is a good egg. She's very smart, like him, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do to convince Howard to bring her back.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of interesting stuff in their relationships to talk about. There's a lot of really cool things that the show is doing with these characters, and what Chuck, I love just like the point I was making for it, like the reversal of who we like in this HHM system is so fascinating, because I see it at all the different points. Like and it doesn't feel unnatural to switch. A lot of times when your hero reverts or switches, it throws you off and you don't know what to do, and it ruins a lot of shows.
Yeah.
This one, it does not. It absolutely does not. It just makes these characters that much more complex.
Yeah, because it was organic how it happened. Just like, the switch last year from Howard to Chuck, now back to Chuck to Howard. It doesn't feel forced or unrealistic.
Yeah, and so as we're talking about, I want to take a second to thank all of you guys for watching us here at AfterBuzz TV. We couldn't be doing this show without you, because otherwise we would just be talking into a vacuum, which I feel like is what Jimmy does a lot. But the best way that you can help us here at AfterBuzz TV keep making these great free, and emphasize free programming, is to help support us on places like iTunes and SoundCloud and YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hit that little thumbs up button. If you're on iTunes, hit the subscribe button and hit us with a rating and a review. And if you do, we'll give you a shout out on the show. And I'm attempting to pull them up right now if iTunes wants to cooperate. But yeah, all the places, your support is what helps keep the lights on here. And another way that you can help keep the lights on here at AfterBuzz is to help support our creator, Kevin Undergaro. So, if you've ever heard of Kevin Undergaro, you might be curious about a celebrity boyfriend's midlife crisis. Maybe you enjoy hearing about the behind the scenes of Hollywood, or you're amused by old TV and movie references. Well, if that's true, you're gonna love The Tomorrow Show, which is hosted by our own Kevin Undergaro. So join the AfterBuzz TV creator and Maria Menounos' fiance, Kevin Undergaro, along with some familiar AfterBuzz faces like Roxy Stryer and Ashley Daniels and a bunch of other people. You can see them live Mondays from 7 to 9 Pacific Standard Time on thetomorrowshow.com. You can subscribe or download free on iTunes. And if you want any more information that I did not just give you right now, and I implore you to go do so, check out thetomorrowshow.com. One more time, The Tomorrow Show. Check it out. It's going to be fun. And if you look closely in the intro, I am making a fool out of myself. It's not hard to spot.
Yes, and James Lott Jr.
But yeah, check it out. So, like I said, thank you guys all for tuning in. I'll try to get iTunes shout-outs pulled up for the end of the episode. But I wanted to go back, and we're going way back, to talk about Chuck's wife.
Yeah.
Who has never been mentioned on this show. We always sort of assumed there had to be a wife there because he lives in this big house, and he doesn't seem to be a lonely guy, but I should rephrase that. He is a lonely guy, but he was successful.
Yeah.
And being married or being in a relationship of whatever kind is one of the marks of a successful person, especially for someone like a lawyer who would probably pride themselves on something like that.
Yeah, and Chuck is just such a, compartmentalized but very professional and just seemingly normal compared to his brother Jimmy. You knew there had to have been a wife or, some sort of relationship that was long term, or he wouldn't have been where he was.
Isn't any surprise that she was a very cultured individual and that she was actually a violinist in an orchestra? That was
perfect.
It was
so fit, Chuck.
great. In New Mexico, mind you, which is pretty funny. Yo-Yo Ma was at their wedding, which that was a fun little addition.
Yo-Yo Ma was at our wedding, which was more of a pointed to Jimmy apparently missed the wedding.
Yeah.
He's like, Yo-Yo Ma was at the wedding, Jimmy, and you weren't, you dick. We had a world-renowned cellist, and we couldn't get some two-time and low-life trickster named Jimmy McGill. And he's like, whatever, man, it's all good.
Yeah, well, Rebecca was really chill about it, which was really funny. She was actually really, really nonchalant about the whole interaction, as if she almost didn't know the depths to which Chuck loathed Jimmy at times.
I get the feeling he didn't like to talk about Jimmy.
That's what I think too. There was almost no conversation. It's like, yes, I have a brother. He lives in Chicago, and that's about it. And he couldn't make it to our wedding.
Yeah, and Rebecca was played by the fantastic Ann Cusack. I love that addition. And then, you could tell that she really didn't know, anything about Jimmy other than he existed. So that was why I liked that they were having this conversation, pulling the lawyer jokes. I love that they bonded over that, and she was just thrilled with it and putting it in there. And you could tell Chuck, you know, when he's pulling his earlobe like they had discussed. Like,
that was great.
he's like, no, look at me.
As soon as he said that was going to be her signal, I was like, Chuck's going to be the one to do it.
Yeah. And it was great because we got to see a little bit of jealousy from Chuck, which we see often, but it's the fact that it was that Jimmy's charisma was actually entertaining his own wife more so than he could entertain her.
Well, Jimmy could not even just entertain, like the basic laughter. Like if you can't make your significant other laugh,
That's why it
there's
doesn't
a
work
problem. Well, I think there's a whole host of other reasons.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm like, something devastating had to happen that probably prompted Chuck's like mental illness, like most things do.
Yeah.
Great way to start it out, him twisting the light bulb and changing him out.
I think that really what it comes down to with Rebecca, like, I think this is the sort of like maybe it's the beginning of the end, maybe not. Like, but he sees how much she responds to Jimmy, and like Chuck is just like, ugh, lawyer jokes, really, and she loves it and contributes back.
Yeah.
With the dirtiest one yet.
Oh, yeah.
Which almost prompts me to think, and it is, especially when she seemed just a little bit, she seemed a little bit distant when they were talking. I was paying attention when I was watching just what her body language was, how she was responding to Chuck, and it didn't seem like two people who were madly in love. I mean, of course, these people are middle-aged, and you don't necessarily get that honeymoon phase at that stage of life, but it's the fact that they just didn't seem like a couple, and you could see it especially right at the end when they're at their own end of the bed, they're sitting there reading. She shows interest in asking him a question, but she really didn't even pay attention to his joke. Like, mind you, it was the worst lawyer joke that we heard of the entire night, but it was just the fact that they just were not really interacting with one another on that kind of level.
Yeah, well, when you're delivering a joke, you gotta be confident in it, or
Chuck
it's gonna fall flat.
Fella.
It's gonna fall flat if you don't deliver properly with timing.
But do we predict what happened to them? Because I don't foresee a death.
All right, so I'm not.
Foresee.
I don't think a death.
I see an affair.
I don't. Maybe I don't. I absolutely don't think it's with Jimmy.
No.
I don't know what it is that's going to cause her to leave necessarily, but I will bet you, I will bet the farm on this, that her leaving is what triggers his sensitivity to electricity.
Totally.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I wonder, it'd be really interesting if they tie it to something to do with electricity, but usually like delusions like that really don't necessarily have to have
No,
a
it's not
specific meaning.
one-to-one like that.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to see, like, because that's such a very odd and specific delusion. Like, where are we going with this? And yeah, obviously this is tied to Rebecca and whatever was lost there. But yeah, like, there was just no spark between them. I mean, it's just very much how Chuck's personality is, he's just a hardworking guy, but there's just not that much going on. And that's why he dislikes Jimmy, who, lit up the room. And so he's always been a little jealous, because we all have that crazy little brother or something like that. There's just like, damn it, I work so hard, and he just comes in and makes everybody laugh.
Yeah. I mean, and even the chat rolls get it in on the fun. John d'Arc.
Let's hear this one.
John d'Arc. How does a lawyer fall asleep at night? He lies on one side and he lies on the other.
Yeah, well done, sir.
Oh God. But yeah. But I think basically Chuck is going to find that like his electromagnetic hypersensitivity, or whatever it's called, I feel like there's a bigger word for it, but I don't remember what it was. I think it is going to be triggered. This is the trauma that we've been waiting to see, because like you don't really just develop a mental condition like that.
No.
Like something so specific. Like you could fall into psychosis or like something like split personality or like depression or whatever. That can be more of like a medical condition that causes something mental. This is like there's some deep rooted like denial of something.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be Rebecca leaving.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that your prediction of at least it being tied to the incident, whatever it is, and that's what I'm saying, like, all right, maybe it's an affair of some sort.
Like
Maybe it's under the
directly,
bright lights of some orchestra or something like that. I mean, like in like a dressing room or something like that.
Yeah.
We'll go there. But, yeah, I mean, it's got to be tied in some way or fashion.
Yeah, because it's just so odd and specific. Like, you know, because usually they go with the bipolar, schizophrenia, just something everybody knows. But to be this specific, something has to be, you know, tied to it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Penfold's getting out. Why did New Jersey get all the toxic waste and California all the lawyers? New Jersey got to pick first. Slam!
Yeah.
All right. So this is Jimmy in the past, but catching up to Jimmy in the present, he's got a babysitter.
Oh, yes.
Erin the babysitter.
And what is she? She's young enough to be his daughter, which is funny. Like, she's
I don't know.
pretty young.
I don't know if she's that
Yeah.
young. Like
She
she's
looks it.
Yeah. I mean, she looks young,
Yeah.
but she's probably
24,
late
25.
20s. I wouldn't even say. Well, no, because she has to have gone through law school at this point, which is what, 3 years.
Yes.
So that would mean minimum she's 25, and she's a second year, so
Yeah.
probably 27, 28.
All right, we'll put it at that.
Yeah.
She's still young looking.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
just looks so young.
But like, and it also is like she's technically his junior at the firm. Like she's been there longer, but like he came in as like a fourth year, which I think is very interesting. That like they actually like they use like terms like fourth year, and we hear it twice in
Yeah.
this episode. This is just me not being familiar with the way that works, but they use that and yet use it to apply to people who have just gotten there. It's
Yeah,
like
seniority.
I'm like, maybe you just need a new term.
Yeah.
Like
Something
junior,
above associate.
senior, associate. Like there's all those words floating around out there. But I guess it makes a difference. Either way, she's there to like to watch him and make sure he doesn't do that
Yes.
stuff again.
She's got like the best snooty, like know-it-all attitude, which is just perfect to kind of just stab at Jimmy in just every way possible.
Super organized. And, yeah.
For organized.
Yes.
The exact
Ridiculous.
she is the antithesis to Jimmy, where Kim is also mostly rule abiding and like very much wants to work for the company and all that. Jimmy's more of a lone gun and stuff, like likes working for himself, like even as he works for a bigger firm.
Career woman.
But Kim is willing to bend when she has to. She sees where things need to be a little bit flexible. She's willing to go outside, just like she was willing to make all the calls at lunch. Like she's willing to go. That's not necessarily her job at that point, but she's willing to do it to get what needs to be done. Get done. Erin is just like, these are the rules. You follow them or no.
You get scolded.
No.
You do get scolded.
I think this is a very interesting character. Like, not that we've seen her before, but this is really the first time we've met her. And she's so annoying.
I know, I just feel like she wants to put stickers on him, like sad faces and stuff, because he does bad. Like, this is the kind of person I think she is. It's like, she has a sticker code. Like, oh no, you did bad. You get a sad face. You get a gold star because you followed the rules for one day. I feel like we're going there.
Jimmy just ditches her. He
Yeah,
just
that was
ditches
so
her,
funny.
doesn't care, sneaks out the back. I mean, poor girl. She's trying. You can tell she's trying, but oh my god. And then when we get to the law clerk's office there, he brings out the little tie beanie baby. Just a little praying bear.
Well,
Little
just
praying
like
bear.
last season, like that was how he got stuff from this character. It's
Yeah.
like just throw a stuffed animal her way and
Her eyes light up.
It's a bribe.
Yeah. No, it's a gift. Gift, Lacretia.
I know. Subtle distinction.
Yeah.
Finessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Penfold points out every single one of us, both in the panel and on the chat board, have had an errand in one job at one time in our lives.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there always is somebody like trying to correct you and keep you like on point. And sometimes they mean well, and sometimes they don't. Jason L thinks that she wants Jimmy's job badly.
So, I mean, it's possible. I think that she is just looking to... she's like the teacher's pet.
Yeah, she's Reese Witherspoon in Election.
She is the one that wants to just do everything that she can to impress her superiors. And if that's going to be, Cliff or whoever has, put her up to this, it's just... It's going to needle Jimmy at his core.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
But so, talking about the stuffed animal, judgment call from you guys. Who's right? Like, beyond, like, obviously we want to root for Jimmy. We want to say Jimmy's right because he's our story's hero. And Erin is in the way. But she is technically, from a legal standpoint, right. So who do you side with in this argument?
She is technically right, but since I'm more like Jimmy and I would do things like that rather than, work hard or wait, I would go with Jimmy. But
I mean, I'm almost in your position there, like where I've been in a position where I wanted to fight a ticket when I went on over to the city, and you get that woman behind the counter who just does not want to give you the time of day, and she's just not going to listen. She's going to have it her way, and you want to do whatever you can to try and get to her, and this is the only means. It's the only thing that he's figured out that can actually get him ahead. And I mean, it's for the greater good in some respect.
Always burst into tears. Always works for me.
We can't all get away with it.
It's gonna look good on everybody.
If I burst into tears, it's just gonna make everybody uncomfortable.
Security.
Anyone crying makes people uncomfortable, right? That's why they're just like, get out, go.
Yeah, but with me, it's not so good. No, but I mean, the struggle is much like Chuck was looking out at Jimmy's possible solicitation. And I stand by Jimmy's like bending of that rule that like if you really broke it down like in a court like that was not solicitation. No. As long as that one person was supposed to be hearing from his speech, then he's all good.
Exactly.
But in this case, it is 100% bribery. Like, it's significantly minor bribery, but it's bribery. And I think she's looking out not just for him, but for the entire case and the firm, because that little thing could theoretically offset a lot. It could destroy the case.
And it's the lesson that keeps on being taught to him. You have to follow the rules, you have to follow the right channels, and he continues to violate them.
That's what I love about Jimmy, is he never learns his lesson.
No, he never does.
It's like, no, I'm going to keep doing the wrong thing.
Never does. He never will. I mean, we've seen Saul Goodman. Probably never will.
Well, Jason L. again in the chat says, just looking at that, there's an example of following the system. He didn't bribe. He would continue. If he didn't bribe, he would continue to be a starving lawyer. He broke rules to get where he is at that point. There's a difference, though, I think, from a legal standpoint. And correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I'm not a lawyer. But I think that when he was a prosecutor or defense attorney, he was giving her that to get new cases. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't bribing her to take specific actions towards like a case. Getting a court date at a specific time is absolutely going to affect the outcome of a case. Yeah. But just getting a new case as like a coworker, like that's like it would be the equivalent. And I get that like a court is not the same as a restaurant, but in a restaurant it'd be like bribing a hostess to send the like big spenders to your tables.
Yeah, exactly.
And as you see, I mean, it's as you pointed out, it was fighting for survival back then. now Jimmy's no longer in that situation where he's fighting for survival, and we kind of see that perfectly in the next scene when he runs into Bill, the DA, in the bathroom, who's pretty much telling him, "You got it good," and in the best way possible. It's my favorite scene in the entire episode, where he's talking to Bill, and Bill is just continually bringing up things. Oh. So what kind of car do you got? You got a company car? Oh, don't tell me there. I loved it.
I loved how pathetic Bill's life was, and then like Jimmy is just sitting there thinking about it, and you'd think that maybe that'd be the aha moment where he's like, yeah, maybe I should do the right thing and try to keep this job with my Coco Bolo desk, but nah, not slipping Jimmy.
The great thing is that Jimmy was the guy who was always trying to hustle to get this guy's attention all the time. Who was hustling a half a bag of chips just to get this guy's attention, and running coffee around, and now he's finally above this man, and Jimmy doesn't know what to do with it. He doesn't know how to react. He's just kind of stuck thinking, okay, like we don't even know what he's thinking, but you have to imagine Jimmy's realizing that he does have it good, and hopefully he knows not to screw it up.
Yeah. He's gonna screw it up.
We know he's gonna screw it up, but hopefully, as he is our hero, anti-hero.
Yeah, but I think it's all of these little things that are really what's gonna build up to him eventually forming his own practice. Like, my only thought is whether or not he's going to do it of his own free will, or out of just like that's what he's got to do now after he gets fired. And we could keep talking about Jimmy all day, but we also, before we run out of time, gotta talk about Mike.
Yes.
In this, oh my God, his face looked worse.
Busted up like Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, I really liked Jimmy, like when he pulled up, "What happened to you?" And then he started singing. Dun, 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 dun. So yeah, but let's just cut right to the chase here. Like the daughter or daughter-in-law and the granddaughter are now up in a motel or a hotel. There's got to be apartments, but I guess that works while they're finding a new place. But you can see that Mike is like, this is probably very expensive, but he just got $25,000 payday, so like he can probably handle it for a little while. But then he gets called. He's in his diner booth. Hector Salamanca
out of nowhere with a little precursor, with the little bell chime right when the food comes up in the window right at the beginning of the scene.
I love that. Yeah. Only Vince Gilligan would have made
very
that little
nice
attention
little
to detail.
like ding 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 ding. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. I honestly don't remember what our predictions were exactly for who was going to be in the booth with him after last week's episode, but I don't remember anybody saying Salamanca.
No, I was hoping it was Gus, but knowing it wasn't. And yeah, like no one said Hector. I don't think even in the chat we weren't even thinking.
Oh God! Well, that's the last thing that you're gonna think.
Yeah.
And the only time we've ever seen this guy, apart from the flashback to the old Gus days, we've seen this guy in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
There's no way that we were gonna think that, and it was so perfectly done. So perfectly done.
Yeah. And what he's asking him to do is to lie, say that the gun is his, so that Tuco can get a shorter jail sentence.
Dropped 8 years. Yeah, just to serve like 1 year, which is peculiar. I'm trying to think of this time frame, and it just doesn't add up. Like, if we're looking at Breaking Bad and we're comparing the two series, for Tuco to only be in jail for a year, unless we really speed things up all of a sudden, I don't know how that would work out. What are your thoughts
Breaking
on that?
Bad?
For Breaking Bad, yeah. If Tuco's only in jail for a year.
Well, Breaking Bad starts in 2004, I want to say. We're in 2002 right now.
Yeah.
So that's at least a couple. So we're at least a few years away from Breaking Bad. He was getting out of jail right before Breaking Bad. Like, we know he had been in jail.
Yeah.
We know that he doesn't stay in for 8 years because of that. So there's all kinds of things that could lead to that, whether it's Mike or not. We know that Tuco does get out. Jonathan Banks, for me, in this scene, just with a brilliantly subtle performance, because you hear every word, every thought that's going through his head without a single word after Salamanca leaves, because he's just like he throws up his hand. He's looking ahead, just like, oh my god. He throws up his hands right as it cut to black. He's like, ugh, what have I gotten myself into?
And
He's like, this is supposed to be a one-time job, like something easy. I don't think he knew. This is what he's probably thinking. Is like, I didn't know Tuco was the Kingpin's nephew.
Well, I think what was so surprising is that
Breaking Bad is 2008.
Yeah,
for the
just
record.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were way off.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have all of my Breaking Bad notes in front of me. I'm just going off of my brain. So 6 years. That's a lot closer to 8.
Parole.
But yeah.
So what was so surprising is that we were just complimenting Mike so much last episode about how calculating he is and how intelligent he is, that we would never think something like this would happen to him after all of the pre-planning, all of the carefulness that we see in his planning. This would ever come to fruition. Like, he even knew about the Salamancas. He mentioned them. He told Nacho, like, you don't want the Salamancas on your back. It's the last thing that you want, and it's what's going to get you killed.
No.
So I think that Mike, and we hopefully I don't know. Are we getting the predictions? Cause I want to.
All right, yeah. We got it. Yeah, we only got a few minutes left, so let's do predictions.
Your AFTERBUZZ TV.
Because we got to talk about what happened in those previews too.
Because I've got to imagine that we're going to find out how Hector gets in that wheelchair, and Mike might be the cause, which would be awesome.
I always thought he was only. I don't think he's going to be the cause of the wheelchair. I think the wheelchair is his illness.
But
Yeah, I think he had a stroke. I mean, that's what it seems.
Yeah.
we have to. Well, I mean, you blunt force trauma. We don't know. The guy doesn't talk. Who knows what could happen to him? I mean, he could chop out his tongue. Who the hell knows? We don't know this. I would like to think that Mike is going
fairly certain he has his tongue.
But do you know this, Zach?
I'm pretty sure.
I would hope the guy has his tongue. Mike's not going to go medieval, but who knows? We'll see what happens.
But yeah, I always thought it was disease. But either way, I mean, do you think, like, while we're predicting, do you think Mike is going to say the gun was his? Do you think he's going to do what he's being offered? Here's the dilemma for him, really, when you get down to it, is he's being offered more money, which he needs or wants, like, so that he can help his granddaughter, to just, like, basically take the rap for something that Salamanca's probably right, will be a slap on the wrist, maybe a fine, which he can pay down with the money, or he does this and basically is in a lot of ways betraying Nacho, who just paid him off in 5 times the amount of money to put Tuco away. What do you guys think he should do?
I think initially Mike is going to side with Nacho. Now, if that changes due to circumstances, like say something happened, they threaten his daughter-in-law or his granddaughter, I think that would be what makes Mike change his mind. But at this point, Hector just coming in there and talking to him, I don't see Mike going along with that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll figure out a way. I think more than anything, he will work something out with Nacho, as you said, and I think we'll see a fun episode of television when he actually faces off with Hector or whichever Salamanca he has to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Mike's gonna try to, like, I think this is the start of Mike going dark, and he's gonna have to do some stuff to cover his tracks and all of this, so that he doesn't get killed, so his family doesn't get hurt. And so that, like, between Nacho and Salamanca, like, he can't please them both. And so he's going to have to probably kill somebody in the way to get there.
Uniting with somebody like Gus Fring, who we knowingly know is anti-Salamanca, could be of benefit, and it could lead to that relationship. Like that's what could cause that.
Yeah, we don't know. The other thing that we have to talk to, we got to get out of here real soon, is, as Tales of a Pre-Sequel points out, dem shoes dough.
Exactly.
That was a huge bit to drop in the preview, because if you don't remember where those skull-tipped shoes came from, those are the symbol for Salamanca's, like, I don't know what the right word, like, assassins, or just anyone who's in his gang.
right?
Yeah.
The cousins were the most well-known that we saw wearing, the two cousins who like became like a crazy force in Breaking Bad for a while. Really cool characters. I don't know if it's going to be them or if it's just the shoes from the gang, because we saw them, I believe they were like recognizable to some people in Breaking Bad as like a symbol of the gang. It's effectively like wearing a gang color. Like anyone who sees it knows that is one of Salamanca's people. Do not F with them. The cartel. The cartel. Don't. Did you see? Run from those shoes.
Mike's own advice. You don't want to mess with the Salamancas.
Yes, exactly. Any last thoughts, guys, before we get out of here?
I do think that they are gearing up for Gus to come into this, either the end of this season or the start of the next one. I think that that's where they're progressing.
Yeah. I'm seeing a face-off with the Salamancas, and Mike is going to have to find a way to protect himself in order to protect his family.
Yeah, it's gonna get real bloody and real dark. It's only a matter of time before Jimmy's got to come in and defend somebody in this scenario.
Jonathan Banks
it
said
remains to be
violence
seen.
is the word of the season for Mr. Mike.
Yeah, there's a lot to be seen, and we need the cue, but big news this week, guys,
Dun, dun, dun.
was season 3 is official. AMC made it official today that Better Call Saul will have a season 3. Thank heavens. I was sort of hoping they were. I mean, we all knew it was going to get picked up. It was just a matter of time. I think the only thing I was hoping for was for them to just do like what they did like before season 1 came up, and there's like 2 more seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
If only just to like know that we had that much more ahead of us. But I'll take it.
Take what we
Season
get.
3. We're excited. Good job, AMC. Thank you for doing that. And thank you to all of you guys for tuning in to watch us here at AfterBuzz TV and joining the after show. Thank you to those of you in the chat. Thank you, Penfold, Jason, John Dark, Tales of a Pre-Sequel, Guns Got 5, Jonathan Ma. Anybody else I missed, I'm sorry. But yeah, thank you. Be sure to go onto iTunes, hit us with a rating and a review. We want to give you some shouts. We didn't have any new ones this week, so I want to get some reviews so that we can shout you guys out. So and also on the YouTube comments below, because that's how the best we can engage with you guys in conversation week to week. We want to know your thoughts on this episode, and be sure to tweet us your lawyer jokes. I want more lawyer jokes for next week. That's what I want on the iTunes reviews, lawyer jokes. All right, so until next week, Kevin Ellis, where can everyone find you?
I am Kevin Ellis. You can find me at the Kevin Ellis on Twitter or Kevin Ellis 25 on Instagram.
And of course, I'm Lacretia Lyon, and if you can spell it right, it's LACRETIALYON. Find me anywhere online since there's only one.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube at that Zach Wilson, THATZACHWILSON. And also here at AfterBuzz on a whole bunch of shows, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. later tonight, where we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff, including the new Civil War trailer dropped last week. And this weekend, AfterBuzz TV's Marvel team will be taking on Daredevil. Tune in to S.H.I.E.L.D. We're going to announce when we're going to be doing that later this week, at least for a few episodes. So until next week, guys, when we talk about Bali High, I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Better call you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.